Hi, good morning, everyone. Uh, Welcome to this event of ours. Our topic today is dark data to dollars, turning AI powered media insights into revenue. And before we get started, I'm going to introduce our panel today. We are going to talk about that. But, I wanted to actually start with a number, uh, which most probably will make a lot of folks in our industry a little uncomfortable. And that number is 45 to 55%, something in between, right? Around 50%, 45 to 50%. What is this number? The number actually represents the amount of data that is there lying within various different portions of your company, uh, large companies, small companies, medium sized companies in the media and entertainment industry that is unused or that is stored, but that is tagged to nothing, that gives you no intelligence, and thereby that generates nothing in terms of dollars. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call dark data. So, what we are going to talk about today is how do we make this dark data into something that we can leverage, how AI is really helping. And we are at this point sitting, here in NAB, we are sitting, we have so many digital companies that we are looking at. There are so many apps that we leverage. So there is huge amount of data that we have at our disposal today. But how do we best leverage that? And AI is going to help us tremendously in that journey. My name is Bidish Sarkar. I'm a SVP for data and AI with a company called Genpact. We are a AI first company. We are focused on helping our customers drive value out of their data, drive value out of their processes, leveraging AI into tangible outcomes. With me is Dipanjan. Dipanjan, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Bidish. And great to be here at the NAV. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dipanjan Das. You can call me Das. That's the easy version of my name. Based out of Dallas, Texas, I lead the sales and marketing practice for Genpact. And like Bidish said, we're AI first strategy, but we are also use our deep domain led strategy for which Genpact is known in the market to design and take solutions, build solutions for our clients in sales and marketing space.
William, you want to go next?
Yeah. Thank you, Bidish. Thanks everyone for coming out. So my name's William Rashan. I am the global industry lead for media and entertainment at Snowflake. And for those that don't know what Snowflake is, we are a AI data cloud. We work with media companies to help unify their data assets and get it ready for AI. And I cover the media and entertainment vertical for the company. So I work with all of our publishing and media companies to help develop use case with partners like Genpact.
Thanks, William. So we will, divide the conversation into 3 or 4 broad segments. The first segment I want to touch upon is more around, the entire data productivity, entire transformation initiative that we are seeing in various organizations, right? At this point, most probably data monetization is one of the urgent conversation that we are seeing in many executive boardrooms. For an industry which is $3 trillion overall, the data monetization estimation is somewhere around 5 billion. All analyst reports says this will grow by tenfold in the next few years. So there's an urgent conversation that's happening everywhere. The transformation initiative is real. I don't think the question is can data be leveraged for monetization. The question is how and what exactly do we do. Dipanjan, I'll start with you on the what aspect, and William, I'll go to you about the how aspect. But what should be those initiatives in a company?
Yes. So, when we look at media companies, broadcasting companies, and when we look at data, I think the topic's shifting from how do we start treating data like a product and stop treating data like an exhaust. So how do we do that? And when we talk about that, all these different terms that we look at, for example, content metadata, we talk about advertising data, we talk about viewer data, and we're saying all of this is unstructured. It sounds like it's a massive technical problem, right? But then you have to break it down and you have to really understand what this different data is, right? Viewer data is nothing but what and where the viewer is, how much time they're spending on the content, what they're doing, when they leave. So that's viewer data, and that's on a specific platform. When you look at content data or content metadata, it's about what's the genre, what's the type of content, and that's in the content platforms. When you look at advertising data, it's the ad signals, it's the CPMs, it's the impressions, and that's in the ad tech platforms, right? So all of these data are in different platforms, but it is not tied up, it's not tagged, and it's a big issue to handle. And why is this important is because unless you have this all tagged and tied and you can make sense and generate insights out of this, you cannot commercialize it. Now, the question becomes, and this is a question today in many of our client conversations is, what does this commercialization mean? So commercialization means, for example, do you have insights on where are viewers spending their time? When is there a likelihood of audience churn, right? Subscription churn. What kind of content drives premium audience? What kind of inventory can you premium price? So these kind of questions, if you these kind of questions are coming up, and to answer these questions, you need the data to be tagged. You need the data to be brought into a common repository platform, and then you should be able to run insights on it. So that's the what of it, and that's the challenge of what companies want to do, but they're not unable to do. But the data is there. And for us to really enable this, we have, through our domain-led approach, bringing AI into it, we have created this framework which we call discover, enrich, and activate. So what that means is you first, with the nuance of your business, understanding the business in which you operate in, your audience, your segments, you first run a discovery to see what are the relevant data types that make sense for you to run monetization. That's step number one. Where is this data lying? What insights can this data provide me? The second thing is you enrich, because what is massively missing today in the data repositories is the tagging, right? The data is there, but you don't have the tagging. So can you use AI smartly to bring in and label and tag the data? So that's step number two. Once you have that, then step number three is how do you then activate the insights, right? So move from data to insights. And the fourth step is data to insights to action, right? What actions can you do? How can you push sales recommendations with those data? Can you push audience insights? Can you push, insights for your customer service and your broader data and sales teams? So that's kind of the framework we're using. And we think that this is very valuable for companies to really drive insights from this data.
No, great thoughts, Dipanjan, and I know you are living it in real life. And William, coming to you, I'll switch to more how about it. And you know what Dipanjan is talking about. Of course, we have been doing this for a while, but it used to take months and sometimes more than a year to do all of this. Lot of it being manual, lot of it being stitching together 5 different tools, platforms, and from there where we are today, um, you know, some of the capabilities that Snowflake brings in, and I'm sure you're going to cover that. It's amazing and how fast you can do it. The other big thing I also want you to address is the scale that we are talking about, right? The word we are using is zettabytes, right? Zettabytes. We no longer terabytes, petabytes. So the data volume is massive. So it will be, if you can cover all of that, that would be fantastic.
I will do it. Only a few minutes, but yes. So yeah, we're seeing lots of different models in the industry. I think as you both touched on, there's core data assets that all media companies have. So it's advertising data, audience data, media data, and there's lots of other things around that, but that's basically the core assets that media companies have. How do you get value out of that data? So the first step, I think it's a great term, discovery. So where does it sit? Is it in an old archive somewhere that no one's touched for many years? Is it already in the cloud? Is it not even owned within the organization, but maybe it's with a third party? So how do you unify all of that data to get into a place where you can actually start extracting value from it? as you kind of bring it through that process, I think metadata enrichment is obviously very important. How do you do it? There's a mix of approaches. Actually, 12 Labs, I see they're a sponsor here. They're one of our partners as well, where you can extract insights frame by frame from video that can then be used for things like retrieving archival footage to reuse in new media channels like TikTok or Instagram or YouTube. You could also get an understanding of what are my rights associated with that content. And that's where the metadata development, the AI first approach comes in, because if you're doing that over millions of files, it is not a process that could be done manually at this point. And then when it comes to actually activating the data, the models that we're seeing customers use for that are things like developing new monetization approaches to your content. In the data marketplace from Snowflake, we have something called Cortex knowledge extensions that a lot of our media publishers are using, where they're actually monetizing their content data with third parties. So the beauty of doing it in a platform like Snowflake is that your data does not move. It stays within your security perimeter, and you're not actually sending your raw source data to any partner or customer. You're giving them access to query the data, to ask questions of the data, and you can still monetize it. So we have folks like the Washington Post and Associated Press and other media companies already doing that. And then when it comes to audience activation, I think that's where there's a lot of new, interesting, emerging business models where we're having collaborations between multiple media companies, unifying their audiences, getting unique insights around that data. So if you're a global media organization and you work with a sports organization, as an example, you can tie together those two data assets. Each party gets incremental data on that audience that they could then monetize through advertising, commanding a higher CPM, doing custom measurement that could then go to all parties involved in that partnership. So there's a lot of new innovation happening there around data collaboration, data activation. I think a through line between all of that is having your data ready for AI, having security, having the ability to bring applications and models to your data instead of sending it out. Because, once you send that data out, you sort of lose control. You lose the ability to be able to really control who has access to it. And I think for all media companies, that's the big challenge right now, is how do you maintain that control in this whirlwind of AI and model development that's happening right now.
Thank you, William. We talked about the what and how about it, but the very important element within that aspect comes the data strategy. And that's my second question to both of you. Third party data strategy was a very effective data strategy still a few years back that was being leveraged by this industry very heavily. Third party data strategy is becoming more and more difficult with the cookies vanishing and all of that, right? So my question to both of you is about first party data strategy. How do you create that as an executive? How do you start with it? And maybe Dibanjan, you can talk about it, and then William, would love to hear from you.
Yes. I mean, this is a interesting situation. I mean, we had a client last year where we were talking about sales and marketing and data and how to drive more pipeline for that company. And the CEO of the company was kind of a data pro, which was kind of an odd situation. We don't see that every day. His first question was, help me understand what can I do with my first party data, right? Because they were struggling with that. So to your question, this is something that we are seeing across companies, is how do we create compelling value propositions for our audience so that they're willing to give me the data, right? So things like hyper personalization, you talk about relevant advertising, you talk about better content recommendations. Those kind of things are not nice to have anymore, right? So this is something that companies have to do, they are doing, to create those compelling value propositions for the audience to engage with, so that the audience is excited, they're to engage with the content, they're giving you willingly the data, and that forms a vast majority of the analytics that we're driving on, right? So that's something that we're seeing a lot. And this kind of then forms the foundation of getting the first party data right into your repository process.
William, on that topic, I would want you to cover a couple of things. One is what we are seeing, at least in the industry, is the clean room approach is becoming, a very, very effective approach of Snowflake facilitates that in many of our customers. And the other aspect, of course, is the fear with all these local regulations, GDPR, CCA, and there is a lot of security aspect to that. So love for you to highlight those.
Great question and a good topic. I think when it comes to the data assets that media companies have, I think the first step that we typically recommend for all of our customers, and this is a primary use case that we partner with Genpact on, is develop a customer 360. So not just what is your audience doing on your platform, what are they doing outside of your platform? I think if you look at what companies like Google and Meta have done over the last decade plus, is they've built that, they call it an audience graph. And having your own identity, having your own identity spine built into your system, I think is also a baseline requirement at this point. And there's proprietary data that all media companies have that is their unique value. It's what is that content engagement for your audience? So what are they showing interest in? You can develop those partnerships with other publishers, with other companies that are not publishers, maybe retailers or advertisers. And that's where data clean rooms can come in. So think of it as the hub is, kind of your base of audience intent, audience information coming from that media engagement. And then you start layering in additional attributes that can come from those partnership relationships. So working with retailers on what product categories are they showing interest in, working with sports leagues on what are their favorite teams, working with other marketers that might have additional signals that can be layered into your platform. Once you have that customer 360, you then have this unique view into your audience that you can then work through those downstream activation points. And it needs to be managed organizationally, not just by marketing, but by sales as well. And I think customer service also gets involved in that. So you can be proactive with how you reach out to your audience. And we're seeing a lot of great development in that area. And when it comes to data clean rooms, one of the big innovations we're seeing now is multi-party engagement in those clean rooms. So not just having a one-to-one relationship, but a one-to-many relationship. And where that comes in is doing things like developing incrementality and measurement on your media platforms. So you can show advertisers and agencies what is the unique value of your platform. And they could get the data that they need to make decisions on giving you a bigger share of wallet. And I think that's one of the big goals of all of our partners. And when it comes to regulation, you asked about as well, I think when it comes to sharing data with governing bodies, when having that overall view of data governance, that is where a system like Snowflake could come in, because what we see is, especially when you're operating in a highly regulated environment like gaming, you might be operating across multiple states that have different regulations, different reporting requirements. If you take that even further, if you look at something like Europe, where you might be operating in 20, 30 geographies that all have different rules and regulations, they have different reporting standards, different data storage requirements too. You're by definition working in a multi-cloud environment with different data requirements and different abilities to store data and share data within each one of those regions. And managing that complexity is where certainly Snowflake can help with that, and working with partners like Genpact as well to have that governance layer on top of the data becomes critical.
No, you put that excellently, William. In fact, the governance aspect of that, and where, as you rightly pointed out, not just storage, residency, sharing, legal aspects, as well as the reporting aspects, all being different. I think that entire community kind of a ecosystem, making that real, is what Clean Room is doing today. And that is where something like a Snowflake marketplace also helps us. Awesome points. We will switch topic. We have roughly 10 minutes left, and go into more the core of it, which is the revenue potential, right? We're talking of monetization. Where is the revenue potential for it? And when we talk about revenue, the way to look at monetization is there are two aspects to it. There is internal value to be captured, and of course the external monetization of it. Internal, we all know something like you know Snowflake or Amazon Prime and others. Roughly 80% of the recommendations that the algorithms are producing today get accepted by the audience. So huge potential in terms of preventing churn, stickiness, and the whole aspect of it. Dipanjan, if you can address a little bit of the incremental internal value or the internal opportunity that data presents, right? That would be amazing.
Yes, I mean both internal and external, right? If you look at how does this create revenue for me, right? Is the question really is things like churn. Churn is a very big problem in the subscription industry, as we know. A lot of companies are operating at 30, 40, 50% churn even, right? So as we are working with these companies, I have a few interesting examples, right? If you look at the small and medium customer base, there are companies that have formed extensive data lakes and data libraries addressing SMBs ecosystem, their behaviors, not only in terms of the engagement that the SMB has with that particular company, the media company, but also broadly what they're doing in the market. What are they hiring? Are they expanding? Is their revenue growing? What is their competition doing? And they're using all of these data to drive recommendations for the SMB when they engage with the SMB, that what should you do next? And these companies that are doing this, in this particular example, of an engagement with an SMB, they are driving much more stickiness, less churn, value prop for their customers. So that's one example.
Great example. Switching a little bit more into the revenue aspect of it, and I want, one, how this, and we are seeing this in your marketplace, actually in Snowflake marketplace, with a lot of our customers, that they're leveraging the data for whether CPG customers or retailers, or for financial customers, as a proxy of audience analytics, and how they can really target specific customers. So that piece is there. The other piece, which is, I think, it's just starting in the industry, but we are seeing it with some of our publishing houses, is that vast data that can be leveraged by these companies like the Anthropics of the world, like the OpenAIs of the world, to train their LLMs, right? If you can address both those topics, that would be great.
Yeah. Why don't we start with the training topic? Because I think it's one that's top of mind for a lot of media companies. I think if you think of like traditional content publishers with written content, they've been sort of sitting back in that conversation up until recently, where a lot of their data has been used for that training without really any oversight or any feedback from the publisher. But we are seeing things kind of swing the other way, I would say now, where publishers are taking more control of that conversation. We have a lot of examples of customers that are doing direct licensing deals with the foundation model providers. And the difference now is they are setting the terms on what data they have access to, and then how it can be used. And so there's more of a value exchange now. The key to all of that is, I think maintaining control, and then having a clear business relationship with the foundation model providers. So having what is the rate for this content? How do I make sure that, there's a value exchange versus just my content and media data going out? And then I think the kind of emerging business models are really kind of shifting more to content like video, where you see a lot of media companies now tapping into those video archives, these video data sets that they have, and getting an understanding of how can I extract value out of that as well. So instead of just written content, it's long form video content, and there's a lot of really cool use cases that we're seeing there around things like using footage that might have been filmed during a film shoot or a shoot for a TV show, and repurposing that content into new content. So, you were filming a skyline of New York City for a horror film that actually never made it to the end product, but you have a new TV show where, hey, we need that shot. Let's not go hire a drone or a helicopter to do it. We've already got it sitting out there, so we can reuse that content. So that's more on the cost saving side, but for every dollar you save on production, it's more money you could make on the other side and profitability. So those are some really interesting models that we're seeing in development right now.
Thanks. Yeah, and I think specifically the content and the entire piece of training the LLMs that you touched on. That's a topic that has become very, very relevant, and we have had multiple conversations on that. As you rightly pointed out, these were being leveraged earlier, but without the guardrails, and this is where we are seeing a lot of interest. Saying, can you provide that area for me to leverage that data? Last point that I wanted to kind of pick both of your brains on is more around the change management aspect of this. Like, as you move from in an organization, start thinking on, and this has been being done by the biggies of the industry for a while, but again, in some of the departments, but as an executive, as you look at each of your departments, how do you handle the change management from authoring to managing to bring it to life?
Yes, I think this is something that is core in the way Genpact approaches this kind of programs and projects. Because we have said that, and we are saying right now that there is no artificial intelligence without process intelligence. So domain and process goes a long way. So what we do is we first create, and we have created playbooks across different media subsections that we bring into these programs. And this define what does the process look like, where what is going to get impacted, what best practices can be reused, what KPIs can be put into the process. All of these kind of create a ready playbook which you can bring into a particular sub-industry subsegment of media and entertainment, for example, and then nuance it to the customer requirements, right? So you start with that and then use that to then bring in some of the data model changes, the data architecture changes, platform changes that needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, and my advice would be don't wait. I think every media company can control their media AI development at this point. You don't have to rely on a third-party SaaS system or some other system to say we are AI powered. You can do it internally now. And I would say find those workflows that are causing your team pain right now. And one of the ones that we've seen to kind of just be the easiest entry point into actually adopting AI internally and using it for real value is with sales teams. So how can we accelerate the time to getting RFPs responses out back to advertisers and agencies? How can we give the sales teams and media planners data where they can just talk to the data and get answers very quickly? If you could save thousands of hours for your team and get better data and better insights back to your prospects and drive more revenue, it's an immediate win. And then I think it opens the door to other opportunities that might be a little more contentious internally. So that would be my main piece of advice on that front.
Well, thanks a lot, William and Dipanjan. I'll open it up for questions. I'll leave you with two or three major thoughts. One being, there is still vast amount of data in all your organization, which is not being leveraged. There are much easier way today to leverage that. Second, if third party is a problem, first party is the strategy to go with. That is the moat. There are clean room options. There are marketplace options that we can leverage in a secured way of, having a community of data and first party data. And last but not least is you may start internally first. Tremendous monetization opportunities internally, but then externally, there are tremendous opportunities as well. We talked about the LLMs, we talked about some of the audience graphs and everything that can be created. So I'll leave that thought with all of you. Any questions? Very happy to answer. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dipanjan.
Thank you.
Thank you.